Hey, Randy Joe here, and welcome back to the channel. Today, of course, you saw the title, we'll be checking out FKA Twigs' new album, Eusexua. This is a brand new LP from FKA Twigs. I believe it is the first album of hers in about 5 years. Actually, 6 years. It looks like Magdalene came out back in 2019. Now here she is, it seems, reinventing herself once again, as she often seems to. This time going into a much more kind of techno route, it would seem, from the singles. And this one here has 11 tracks and 43 minutes of runtime, which makes this longer than her last album. And I wonder just how much it's going to really sink into those kind of techno dance vibes. But without further ado, let's get into it. Brand new LP, title track here, Eusexua, kicking it off. Let's go. Ooh. It's a soft, kind of Evanescence-like delivery. I do like how kind of gentle her voice is up against this kind of rapid beat. I like the kind of wavery yelps that we're getting here. Very sensual track. Oh, this one's very subtle in its growth, this track. We're about halfway through. It's got a sense of repetition in the lyrics, yet the growth in the track is certainly the kind of key component here because it's so subtle, but it certainly feels much more enveloping as we go on, kind of wrapping around us. What do you think, Nibbler? No comment. Oh, I like how heavy this is. Oh. These quick, slight additions. This is very hypnotic as it takes hold here. Those vocals chopped up, kind of glitched out. No stranger to glitch pop, she is. Incredible. Glitchy, low bit outro here. Incredible. What an opening track. Let's go into Girl Feels Good. Love how very robotic kind of vocals, which certainly match the kind of alien-like cover here. Very sci-fi induced, this LP. Oh, surprisingly warm kind of production here. Reminded me of Portishead, especially. It's a strong vibe I'm getting here. Certainly has that trip hop element kind of running deep here. Seems like a very sexual track. Unfortunately, no lyrics, but Mm. Ooh. The drops on this LP, very invigorating, gorgeous drops. Super danceable, but it has a nice kind of, strong sense of atmosphere that is reminiscent of the moodiness of like a Portishead. And again, this robotic vocoder coming in, really adding to the sci-fi element of the record. Super futuristic. That was another great one. Even more futuristic than the opener. Very moody, beautiful, loved it. Here's Perfect Stranger. Love the coldness of the music on this one. It's just so alien.
I don't know the name of the town you're from. Your stars, I know the school you failed. I don't know and I don't care.
Also feels like there's some level of Charlie XCX influence, I would argue, on here. But again, very different direction it's taking. Kind of the ideas that she would have done on How I'm Feeling Now and, of course, Brat.
I don't know the food that's your favorite now. You work
Very disturbing, glitchy vocals there too, Barry. And yet still danceable. Still has a groove. Don't know what the song's about. Just like a maybe a beauty and like a one night stand, perhaps. Giving yourself over to this random individual. By kind of removing all characteristics of personality of this person, they become, it would seem, the ideal perfect stranger, simply for her own pleasure, perhaps, in this sense. You know, no strings attached kind of idea. Just like a pure primal instinct here. Another great track. Love the energy of this one. This whole LP so far, really taking things into a very different direction from what we got in Magdalene. And even though I did like Magdalene a lot, been listening to it again in preparation for this one, I kind of like the direction that this is taking, even more so. I just find this album to be much more immediate than Magdalene even. Just digging the futuristic tones. Here's here's Drums of Death. I didn't say the title. This one's heavy. Oh. Just playing with the simplicity of the heaviness of this drum. I love this song. Very immediate catchiness to this one. Super heavy. Glitchy. Shockingly kind of beautiful, this LP. my god. All the glitchy repeating vocals. Incredible techno on this thing. Like, very refreshing while still feeling like it is kind of looking back on what techno was, especially like 2000s kind of vibe I'm getting from this. But still very futuristic in its direction. Oh, I really like that. What is even going on at this point? It's like, I feel like my ears are being assaulted on both sides, especially with that disturbed whisper with that single line. And even the different deliveries. Like multiple deliveries of each line there, kind of spliced together. Very pro women, pro feminist kind of tone of this album, especially this the last two lines. You know, I'm all for it, especially in this day and age. Certain things going on in the world, which of course we won't get into the politics of certain countries right now. But you know, this is the kind of attitude perhaps we need. Drums of Death, very immediate, very punchy. Just love how catchy that thing was. And heavy, very heavy. Here's Room of Fools. Another strong, I feel like I want to say influence that I'm getting on this one is The Knife as well as Fever Ray. Great artist Fever Ray is, who stems from The Knife, of course. Vocally, I'm getting the strong kind of Fever Ray vibes, as well as just sonically being a much more moodier direction. A collab is I feel like warranted at this point. We need a Fever Ray FKA Twigs collab. Well, I do like the growth of this track. This is probably one of the weaker tracks so far. But certainly a bit more repetitive and not as bold as some of the other cuts. Just gonna say I like this funky, deeper kind of key in the background there. Okay. A little bit of a like Saharan detour. I feel like we're walking the desert with this outro. All right, that one was decent. Definitely my least favorite so far of the batch, but that outro certainly brought it to a unique, very deserted sort of direction. I really liked kind of the overall tone there. Felt very isolated. Let's go into Sticky, which is the shortest here, 2 minutes and 57. Oh no, there's one shorter track coming up.
Overcomplicated moments and sticky situations.
A slight kind of hyperpop kind of finish, at least to the vocals, I would say. Kind of experimental direction.
I'm tired of messing up my life with overcomplicated moments and sticky situations.
This one getting quite moody here. That buried clap really adding to this kind of faded out atmosphere. This one, beautifully subtle.
You know it makes me shy. Count to 1, 2, 3.
Certainly
My vulnerability.
even more kind of
Come on,
revealing and
say something nice.
vulnerable in its lyrics. Love the use of repetition throughout this album so far vocally. Just love the kind of glitch factor that comes with it. Like the way it's pitched up and used as an instrument. Like, this is beautiful. And she's really kind of pushing that to its limits too, expanding it. Ooh, bearing her soul. Hold on. Deep in the hyperpop realm now. Maybe not on the same level of a Sophie, but certainly kind of aiming in that direction, because wow, what a weird crashed out outro that one was. And FKA Twigs really venturing into I would say the hyperpop realm. Very bold, I feel like, because her last album was very different from what we're hearing here. Here's Keep It, Hold It. Love the kind of reinvention of sound that she's going for. She doesn't play it safe so far in her discography. Bit of a kind of medieval sound to this one.
Sometimes I wanna turn the other way.
Sounds like an old medieval video game.
Sometimes I feel so empty where I lay. And at best I live alone in disarray.
Very introspective too, this album is getting.
I read a million people gotta feel this way. I often look at windows for escape. To be safe. To be safe. I read a million people gotta feel this way.
I love the sort of like kind of European vibe we're getting throughout this track.
And what have I gotta do? Sometimes I feel like I'm not even trying.
Oh.
Sometimes I feel miles away.
So many detours throughout this LP.
Sometimes I feel like I'm not even trying. What have I gotta love? Just keep what have I gotta do? Just keep
Love these repeating vocals. You know,
what have I gotta love?
I'd even go as far to say, and maybe this is a bold claim, but I'd go as far to say that I'm kind of getting a bit of a Kate Bush kind of vibe from what we're hearing here. This track especially, those backup vocals throughout, the repeating Keep it walking, keep it, hold it. That repeating motif feels very reminiscent of something that Kate Bush would have done back in, you know, the 80s, her 80s run, especially. Just has like a classic kind of art pop flair to it. She certainly conquers an atmosphere on this record. Similar to that of a Kate Bush. And definitely embracing the weird factor in her music here. Gorgeous track. Strong kind of European or Eastern vibes throughout that entire track, but still keeping it as futuristic as possibly can be, while throwing it back a little bit and honing in on a Kate Bush sort of influence. Just a really great, well-rounded track. Here's Childlike Things with Miss Northwest. That's right. 10, 11-year-old Northwest, Kanye West's daughter on this one. Never thought that would be the case, but let's keep it going. That's North, I think. Oh. Okay. This is FKA. Super upbeat and fun this one is. And rapid on this delivery. The production might carry this thing. I do wonder how is Northwest going to execute here. It seems like Northy there she is. She is speaking Japanese here. Fluently, it would seem even. I did not even know she could speak Japanese. Props to her. Only, 10, 11? And this is what it seems to be the annotation here. Not saying anything too crazy. Saying pretty much the same stuff we'd heard her father been saying for the past, 5 years or so. Definitely has a very Eastern sort of appeal to this thing. I could see why North delivers a Japanese verse. Still don't really understand why she is just simply saying, "My name is North, hello Tokyo." I guess she just knows the basics. But good for her. Oh my god, why is this actually... That track was actually surprisingly good. Very catchy, at the very least. Great production. The production is carrying that song. Is North doing a whole lot there? Not exactly. But, the Japanese element certainly fits the tone. I'll give her that. It's a surprisingly effective collab, is what I'll say. Better than I expected. Here's Striptease. That was an interesting, more upbeat direction, though, and I do prefer the moodier tracks that we've gotten, so hopefully we dial it back. Incredibly moody this one is. Oh. Certainly one of the more one-dimensional tracks so far. Definitely not nearly as immediate as some of these other tracks. Very repetitive and not as interesting production-wise either. I feel like we are kind of just getting what feels like more of the same, but not too as much of a explosive sort of kind of flair. Interestingly enough, this track apparently is produced by Dylan Brady of 100 Gex. I will say, not one of my favorites so far from him, at least stuff that he's been attached to, because this track to me is one of the weaker ones on the album. I do like this part. So we slow down. And as you know, I love some What is this sample? Is this like the Amen break? This song is certainly growing. Also, I think this is, I want to say it's called the Amen break. This part here, that main sample that's kind of repeating. Very famous, well-established sample at this point. Is that what that was? It's a familiar sample, that's for sure. That fast, kind of rapid, kind of drum break. I think it's the Amen break. Here's 24-hour dog. Oh, this first verse, just reading it here. Maybe a little kinky, but maybe kind of robotic, it would seem, in fashion.
Right, so what you want me to do? You love chores, distract me from my worst flaws. Setting free the softest part of me gets dangerous sometimes. Still got it that is getting me high. Please don't call
A full submission here.
when I submit to you this way.
Maybe a bit quite kinky here. Twigs, you gotta chill it here. A little too horny on main, I would say. Very blunt. Reminds me of Dorian Electra. Also, if you have never listened to Dorian Electra and you like hyperpop, and you like the very kind of submissive sexual innuendos throughout this track, listen to Give Great Thanks by Dorian Electra. In my opinion, their best track, one of their best tracks, but certainly in the top 3 for me personally. Very much a submission to a dom kind of track, which this seems to be kind of mimicking in a way. No shame for it. Love the panning here of the vocals. Really, really sinking into it now.
Please don't call my name when I submit to you this way.
Fully stripping her identity for this man or woman. Love that one. Twigs just fully showing her submissive side on that one. While also, you know, there's there's also a tinge of kind of sadness and kind of pained vocals kind of within it as well, reminding me of, like I said earlier, Give Great Thanks by Dorian. Kind of goes the same route where, you know, very submissive, but does feel a little bit kind of depressed and maybe hurt. Like there's like a lack of control here. Let's go to Wanderlust, which is the last one here. Wanderlust.
By the way, the film was crazy. I hate the cast. The aesthetic's crazy. Album's way too long though. I
Some
make it
references
just
something?
the same, but with all the lyrics gone.
Maybe getting
I get violent in a rage when I'm sad alone.
a little reflective on the album here.
I can criticize the world when I'm sad at home. In bed, no makeup on my face, filter covered up my lows.
This one really giving strong Charlie XCX vibes,
If I don't wake up Monday morning,
especially that verse.
I'll make it up to you, babe. When I'm here, but I'm lost.
Beautiful vocals here.
Wanderlust, all time lost. I see my life in motion.
Very
Mistakes in motion.
dissonant sort of track so far.
Misplaced emotion.
The instrumental quite sparse.
I get violent in a rage when I'm sad alone. I can criticize the world when I'm sad at home. In bed. If I don't
Again, very introspective. Lots of kind of self-hating as well.
wake up Monday morning, I'll make it up lost in the pure wanderlust. Hold tight.
Love the way this is ramping up.
When the sky's not enough,
Gonna overthrow and envelop. Oh,
it's alright to be the light, to cross the sea, to wanna ride with higher tide.
love how like
You've
this drum break that's being used, very kind of like 90s in aesthetic.
one life to live, do it freely. It's your choice to break off believing it. I'll be in my head if you know.
Love the very interesting kind of drum breaks on here. They feel very vintage. Incredible track. It's just a nice, sweet, beautiful, enveloping, introspective sort of cut to close things out. There's a sense of kind of self-pitying, maybe a self-hate. Love that one. And that closes out Eusexua by FKA Twigs. 43 minutes. And I gotta say, this thing is, in my opinion, much more immediate than her last LP, Magdalene, which is not a dig. I do think Magdalene's a fantastic album with some incredible songwriting. But Eusexua, if we're talking production here, it just kind of hits it out of the park. It is super futuristic, super techno, while still feeling like it throws things back a little bit, quite especially to the 90s, I would say, aesthetically. But it's still very alien in its sound and is reminiscent of, a Fever Ray, of the Knife, which Fever Ray is a part of, as well as, some contemporaries in the hyperpop scene, such as Charlie XCX and Dorian Electra, and even, to some degree, the Sophie influence is on this record, which, to be fair, Sophie, it's kind of all over the hyperpop scene with, their singular album. But that being said, this record as a whole is pretty brilliant and certainly worth the wait, I would say, because we have been waiting for quite some time. Yes, we had Capri Songs, which I never checked out personally. I've heard, pretty solid things all around, but this is not an official album, at least in terms of, FKA Twigs' personal opinion, because it's not slated as one. Whereas Eusexua, if we're counting that as the follow-up to Magdalene, this is worth the wait. This does feel like it delivers on a very unique artistic vision, and continues to show FKA Twigs is a kind of jack of all trades when it comes to genres and kind of styles that she can conquer. This is a great LP, and certainly one that I think will hopefully get all the praise it deserves throughout the year. I think the only tracks here I didn't care for would be Room of Fools and Striptease. Those two did not hit me as hard as a lot of the others. I do like the more moody trip-hop elements throughout this record, and I just feel like, Room of Fools kind of delivered on that, but the first few tracks delivered on it stronger. Perfect Stranger and Drums of Death especially were really fantastic. Perfect Stranger, I think, was the one that had like the glitched out vocals too, which I loved the repetition of the vocals. And Childlike Things is one that I think is a little too weird maybe with the album, and not that this album isn't weird. Obviously, I feel like that's the kind of identity it goes for. But the upbeat nature and the Northwest tie-in where she is kind of just shouting out herself in Japanese doesn't really add a whole lot, lyrically, I would say, or thematically to the album. So maybe could have been put on like a deluxe edition. But all in all, this is still a great LP and worth a listen. But that does it for today's video. If you like the video, please hit like and subscribe to follow along in listening to more albums throughout the year alongside myself. I will also be checking out the entire Pink Floyd discography as well as Bjork's discography starting next week. Finally, I've been putting it off for too long. We will do it. We will start very soon. As always, my name is Randy Joe. I appreciate you watching, and I'm signing off.